Many of us played through one of the 3 beta weekends and are still deciding which class to play, let alone which build to play when Diablo 4 launches later today. In this video, I'll be continuing my series of theory crafting some early leveling builds for Diablo 4's launch. Today's class is our Archer Rogue build. As just a quick disclaimer, these are of course theory crafted builds and will more than likely change once any balancing changes have been made on launch. Now, having already seen the launch patch, not a lot of the builds that we've discussed have actually changed. In fact, if anything, they've gotten stronger. So just a quick heads up on that. I'll first give you here a overview of the build, then a per level breakdown of the skill choices, then close the video out talking about aspects and gear options. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things here is by front loading the info on my videos so you can decide if this is the video for you. Now, since this is a per level guide on which abilities to take, you can find the entire build linked in the description in the pinned comment, as well as a Google Doc, which will give you the per level breakdown. You can just kind of follow along with those. You can quickly navigate to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. Lastly, please don't forget to follow me on Twitch, where I will be streaming Diablo 4 along with the Diablo 4 drops that are happening each week for the next 3 weeks, as well as plenty of other games. But let's get started here on my Rogue leveling build for Diablo 4. So opening up here is our Rogue build. Now, if you've never played Rogue, the way that Rogue works with its basic attacks and its core attacks are that the basic attacks are not a resource generator like they are for every single class. The Rogue plays very similar to the World of Warcraft Rogue, where they have an energy bar that's constantly, well, energy pool that's constantly regenerating. So it's going to be just like that. In fact, didn't the Demon Hunter play like that? I think it was like the Demon Hunter that played like that in D3. I actually never, I think I played the Demon Hunter like once or twice, one season or so. But with this build, we're going to be focusing on using Forceful Arrow as our basic attack because we are going to be an archer as most as possible. But the big bread and butter here is the penetrating shot. So fire an arrow that pierces through all enemies and the line dealing 98% damage. And the way this really kind of gets going here is that these penetrating shots, they increase damage per enemy pierced. So you have just tons and tons of really good room clear. Now, the alternative to this build would be to go with Barrage here that shoots a kind of fan of arrows out, very similar to what you had with the Amazon, right? As you went into multi-shot, the arrows would become more and more and more, and that's always 5 arrows here, but still, it's kind of very similar to that. I personally find that this one, it kind of loses its usefulness to me, especially if I'm fighting a boss. I kind of struggle because I have to get real close and hope that all 5 or most of those arrows hit the boss. This, I think, is a really good kind of middle ground between being able to do a lot of damage to a lot of enemies at once, as well as doing a lot of single target damage whenever I need it. And then we're going to really jump into our defensive with Caltrops, which just gives us the ability to kind of leap backwards and slow things down. Also, it gives us an AoE Vuln, which is massive. Vuln is a big thing for the Rogue. So we're going to be dropping vulnerable on everything, which is of course going to be increasing the amount of damage we're going to do. And we're going to be extremely fast with this build. So almost all Rogue builds rely on 2 imbuements, both Shadow Imbuement and Poison Imbuement. And when you activate these abilities for 2 activatable, imbuable skills, which I'll show you, they're imbued with this imbuement. So if I use this one, it's increased single target damage because it's going to add 140% poison damage onto it versus Shadow, which causes a lot of explosions, and it's good for AoE clear. So what I want you to think about with this build is, when you shoot someone with a penetrating arrow, they're going to be, if it's Shadow imbued, they're going to be exploding with Shadow damage all over the place. And then you pick up this aspect, Trick Shot aspect. So whenever penetrating arrow shot damages an enemy, 2 additional arrows split off to either side. These arrows deal 10 to 25% of penetrating shots base damage and do not split. So yes, it's not going to split, but still, from that initial shot, that initial arrow is going to keep splitting, and every split is going to be having exploding shadow damage. So you're just going to have the entire room exploding all over the place. And you get consuming shadows here, which generates energy whenever you damage someone with shadow. So you constantly have your energy being replenished as you're just destroying and clearing rooms. We're not going to be choosing any of the ultimates. We're going to have precision as our capstone, which pretty much helps out with some crit strike damage and whatnot. I'll go into that more later, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And our other little defensive here is Dark Shroud. So the way that this works here is surround yourself with up to 5 protective shadows. Gain 11% DR per active shadow. That's 55% damage reduction. Each time you take a direct damage, that damage is reduced and a shadow is consumed, and it has a chance to not consume a shadow. And these shadows now increase my movement speed by 4% per shadow. Well, that's just damn awesome. So I'm getting, what, 20% movement speed from this. I'm going to be moving really quick with haste. While at or above 50% max energy, you gain 15% movement speed. If you're below it, you get 15% attack speed. So I'm already at 35% increased movement speed there. And another one of these helps my, a stutter step. Critical striking enemy grants 15% movement speed for 4 seconds. So you are going to be moving around the battlefield so fast. You're going to be giving things as you just rip apart stuff with shadow explosions. This ability, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's not that one. It is this one. Exploit allows you just to kill really, really weak enemies fast or really healthy trash mobs quickly. So I think this is going to be probably one of the best archer builds in the game for leveling. Of course, this is all going to shake out differently as we approach the first season, but I'm sorely pressed between this build and my Blood Golem build as to which one I'm going to start with first. This seems like it is going to be so much fun. You're going to be moving around so quick. You're going to have a lot of damage reduction, so tons of defense into yourself, and a lot of resource generation. So I think that this thing is going to be a ton of fun. So let's go to the per level breakdown to kind of help you understand how this all plays itself out, because we haven't even talked about how the combo points work to help increase your lucky chance hit. So we'll talk about that all next. Let's break this bad boy down on a per level basis. Our first 2 levels, of course, are going to go into Forceful Arrow and then Enhanced Forceful Arrow, like you do, followed quickly by Penetrating Shot all the way into, is it? I have the spreadsheet on my right for the advanced breakdown, so I had to look at where it is. But yeah, advanced penetrating shots, what we're going to be doing. So when cast with full energy, penetrating shot will slow all enemies hit by 50% for 3 seconds. Elite enemies will also be knocked down. So it's great because we're going to give a nice source of knockdown to elites. I'm not sure how that really works with bosses, because I know that bosses fall into the elite category, but I think they're immune to knockdown. So it's nice to at least have that nice set crowd control early in the game, because you're not going to be very tanky at this point, right? You're level 6, you're probably just made of paper, and you're falling apart left and right. Followed by Fundamental Forceful Arrow. Forceful Arrow now knocks back non-elite enemies if they are close. If they collide with another enemy, both are knocked down for 1.5 seconds. So a lot of knockdown and a lot of knockback, and I'm going to show you why that's going to be really important in just a little bit. And also to Enhance Penetrating Shot, I forgot to talk about this, it deals increased damage per enemy it pierces, so this can really kind of pop off, as it were, as you really get a good line of shots in. And you'll kind of learn how the placement on this works. Make sure you're using Shift left click whenever you do this, so that you lock yourself in place and you shoot down the pipe, and then you can just kind of relocate as needed. Vasily sidestep over here, relocate, yeah, displace. Okay, so next up is caltrops, and now this is going to be your defensive. Leap backwards and throw caltrops on the ground, dealing 30% damage and slowing enemies by 50%. Again, this is going to be a nice way to put slow on things. It's what I like here is that this slows enemies by 50%. It's not a 50% chance to slow enemies, so I like that it is a set way to put slow onto things, and I love that a lot. Followed quickly by disciplined or enhanced and then disciplined caltrops. So this is they're gonna take increased damage from you when they're in those caltrops, and you have an increased crit chance against enemies inside your caltrops, and double this if they're vulnerable. So you get a 10% chance to crit them if they're vulnerable, and you're gonna be able to put plenty of vulnerable on plenty of things quite soon. So don't even worry about that. So now that we've got that, we've got 2 more points until we get into Dark Shroud. So let's go ahead and put those 2 points into Penetrating Shot. As I've always said for all my builds, the first 2 points you invest in any skill are going to give you the most return. They're going to have the highest increase to damage or what have you. Beyond that, even though it looks like it's a flat percentage bonus here, the actual percentage bonus in the game is not that quick or not that much of an increase. It's a sharp fall off. It's diminishing returns, as it were. So it puts us up to 3 on 5 with our Penetrating Shot. And then we're going to jump down here into Dark Shroud, which I've already said is amazing. But even here at level 1, it's still going to give us 40% damage reduction, which is going to feel really, really good at level 13, where you probably are struggling at this point to stay alive a lot of points in the game. You're like, man, I'm getting hit really hard right now. I don't know if I like this build. Just stick with it. It's going to get real wild. We're going to enhance Dark Shroud so that sometimes your shadows are not consumed, and then subverting Dark Shroud to to Shroud to now just get a flat movement speed bonus. So what's nice about this is you're going to cast this. You're going to have these shrouds circling around you and they're just active. They're there. They don't have a timer. So the nice thing about that is you just constantly have a movement speed buff while you're just playing in the early portions of the game where movement speed is crucial to just kind of get through that early slog. This is such a good ability. I am beyond stoked with it. If you've ever played Dark Ages of Camelot, it's why I always play like minstrels or skalds or movement-based characters, because it's just so goddamn fun. Now, next up is Exploit. We're going to put 2 points into this. Now, you deal 12% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. So healthy is something like the first 5% of their health. I think it's 100 to 95% health. Injured, I think, is the last 30%. So basically, you kill anything that's really weak much faster, and you have a chance to auto-kill any real trash mobs that have like a little handful of health. You're doing an extra bit of damage to them, just kind of like knock them out of the game quickly. So this is going to help you clear the early portions of the game fast, because you can just kill stuff that's either injured or healthy pretty quick that's got low health. Now we're going to jump into our imbuements, both Shadow and Poison. You're going to put your next 2 points into those. And that's going to bring you about to level 19. Yeah, level 19. So, just to kind of re-explain these in case you skipped over the initial portion, you have set imbuable skills as a rogue. All of these are not imbuable. This says Subterfuge, Subterfuge, Trap, Agility, Trap. Look at this. Agility, Imbuable, Cutthroat. So, anything that says imbuable can attain the benefits of a Shadow, Poison, or Frost imbuement. So almost all of your core skills are imbuable. Now what's nice here is none of your basic skills are imbuable. So what this means is, if I'm taking a look specifically here at Shadow Imbuement, your next 2 imbuable skills, so Penetrating Shot, damage and infect enemies for 6 seconds. Infected enemies explode on death, dealing 40% damage to all surrounding enemies. If the infection expires before the enemy dies, it will deal 40% damage to only that enemy. So what you're doing here is, you're using your Forceful Arrows. And when you use your Forceful Arrows, you're building up your combo points, because at this point you want to make sure, because at level 15 you unlock your specializations, I believe. I don't remember if it's 15 or if it's 1. You want to get combo points. So your basic skills now generate combo points. Core skills consume combo points for additional effects. So what this does is, it doesn't show on here, I believe, and don't quote me on this because I have to look at it in the game to see if it's changed at all. You build your 3 combo points. You use Forceful Arrow 1, 2, 3 times. Then you right click after you've imbued Penetrating Shot, and you have an increase to the lucky hit on this. So you almost guarantee yourself, I think it goes from 50 to 80% lucky hit. So you now are shooting an Shadow imbued Penetrating Shot with 80% lucky hit. And you can just keep shooting things with Forceful Arrow again, 1, 2, 3, and use your second charge of Shadow Imbuement. So that's how the imbuements work. You use those charges, and you don't have to worry about your basic skills wasting a charge. It's so good. Nothing else on this list of skills that you're taking will waste a charge, so you won't accidentally do it. It's really good. And then Poison, on the other hand, is what you're going to do against any bosses or hard to kill units, because it's going to give you that poison damage. It's quite nice. There can be an argument in this build to take Alchemical Advantage, which increases your attack speed for each enemy you poison. So you basically use Poison Imbuement with your Penetrating Shot to increase your attack speed, but if you've kind of put those dots together, I'm not going to be taking that route because I want to just use Shadow for our AoE. That was a long bit of a digression, but still, it's important to understand how the imbuements work. And we're going to get the most out of our imbuements with these. So Shadow Crash. Shadow damage has a 10% chance to stun things, so that's okay. But this is the big thing we want. Consuming shadows. You only need a point in this. You can put 3 down the line, but you only need 1. So each time you kill an enemy with shadow damage, you generate 10 energy. So this is going to allow you to just get a ton of energy by just blowing up an entire room. It's so good. Then we're going to enhance this so you have an increased crit chance against injured enemies infected by Shadow Imbuement. And then we're going to do Blended Shadow Imbuement. So now the explosion makes things vulnerable. Also, our Caltrops. Remember, they are going to be able to double this crit strike chance against vulnerable enemies. So it's a really great way to slow things down and then get a ton of crit chance out of them when they're vulnerable after you've already been blowing them up with the Blended Shadows Imbuement. It is just such a good wombo combo here. Now we're also going to go into Enhanced Poison Imbuement, which now unlocks our ultimates, but don't worry about it. We're not going to be picking any of them up, unfortunately. Rain of Arrows, while cool and, you know, Archer-esque, it's not particularly great, especially since it only has a lucky hit of 2%, which I think is per arrow that lands. But still, I'd rather just have Penetrating Shot be a real girth lord, just shooting pipes down line. So then we go into Mixed Poison Imbuement. Lucky hit, poison imbued skills have up to a 30% chance to apply double the amount of poisoning damage over time. So remember, we're comboing up with our forceful. I'm right clicking my penetrating shot, which has an 80% lucky hit now on a boss who is now going to take, where is it? Jesus. 200% poison damage because of this bad boy. If lucky hit triggers, right? So you have poison abuse skills have up to a 30% chance to double the amount. So that's how that works. So you have the lucky hit triggers and you have a 30% chance for this to actually trigger. So still, you can really stack up a ton of poison damage here, and it is very, very fun. So our next ability here is Precision Imbuement, which I have to remember where it is. Oh man, they're all over the place. It's like when you build these things initially, you know exactly where they are. And you go to do this video and you just forget where everything is in the damn game. Precision Imbuement is, right there. So imbued skills gain 3% increased crit strike chance. This is going to give us 9% crit strike chance. And you're going to see how crit strike is really going to pop off here real soon once we get to level 35. Because right now we're at level 28. Precision Imbuement is going to further increase that crit damage with our imbued skills, which we're going to be using all the time. Let's now jump over here into Adrenaline Rush. While moving, you gain 5% increased energy regeneration. So you're really not going to be running out of energy anytime soon. And now we're going to jump into Haste. 1, 2, 3 points, which leaves us 2 points shy of our capstone. Haste, again, is while at or above max energy, you gain 15% increased movement speed. So you're going to stack that with the 20% that you're getting from Dark Shroud. You are not far into the game right now. You're at level 32 and you are buzzing around the battlefield very quickly. But while you're below max energy, you're going to gain 15% increased attack speed. So if you think about that in a situation where you are energy starved, you're going to be able to use this to get the energy back real quick with Consuming Shadows. It's just got so much good synergy in this damn build. It's pissing me off. Let's jump back up here. So we're going to 2 more points because we need to do this to unlock our capstone into Penetrating Shot, and we have capped out our major damage dealing device. Let's go back down to our capstone and pick up Precision. Now, if you don't want to go Precision, you can go Victimize, but for me, I kind of like the reliability of Precision. So critical strikes with marksman skills grant you Precision. You gain 4% increased crit strike damage per stack of Precision up to a max of 20. So that's an 80% increased crit strike damage. When you reach max precision, your next marksman skill is a guaranteed crit strike that deals 40% increased crit strike damage, then consumes all stacks. So why that last line is important is that it does 120% increased crit strike damage once you reach that 20 stack and you unload it all, right? So Precision does a lot of really good damage. By and large, both of them aren't that amazing. They're not the thing that kind of turns the build on, but they're really nice to haves. So we've got that. We've got that all nailed out. Let's go ahead back up here and grab Exploit right here at level 36. We're going to put 2 points into Poison Imbuement because now we're going to be coming around to a point where we're going to get near Nightmare. And I'd rather have the ability to kind of burst down heavier, harder hitting bosses around this point at level 37, 38. So at 39, we're going to jump into Malice, which is right here. You deal 9% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and as you've seen, vulnerable is going to be all over the place. And we're also going to jump into Weapon Mastery. So Weapon Mastery here, this is going to put us at level 44. Weapon Mastery allows you to get more goodies from specific weapons. As an archer, I'm almost always going to focus on bows. I never really use crossbows in Diablo games. They're just too slow for me. I mean, barring Demon Hunters, which use hand crossbows, but still. Bows are the way to go because especially now you're going to do 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Well, you're also going to do 9% more damage to those invulnerable enemies too because of this one. So lots of stacking vuln, lots of damage bonus towards that vuln that you can really capitalize on. Next up is concussive. Now remember when we talked about how much knockback and knockdown stuff is going to be done with our penetrating arrow and our forceful arrow? Well, concussive is going to capitalize on that. After knocking back or knocking down an enemy, you gain 5, 10, 15% increased crit strike chance against them for 3 seconds. So this is going to be really nice for you. A nice, really, really good one here as you come into level 47. And we're going to really increase that that movement now as we come towards the point where we're getting near Nightmare, where mobility is really going to be key once we start to get overwhelmed with a lot of enemies. With Stutter Step. Critically striking an enemy grants 15% movement speed. And the reason I chose Stutter Step at this point is because now we've got a lot of our crit chance online, right? A lot of our passives are giving us that added additional crit strike chance. Concussive, as you just saw, is going to help increase that by 15% alone from things that are knocked back and knocked down. So that's where we're jumping into that. And now that we're probably full into Nightmare, or at least attempting it, we're going to put 2 points into Dark Shroud to help out with our damage reduction a little bit. We're going to put 2 more points into our Poison Imbuement to put that at 140% base damage. Now, remember, if that lucky hit triggers, it's going to be 280, and it's really, really, really nice. And then 2 more points into Dark Shroud here to kind of finish us off when it comes to a defensive standpoint. Now that we've done that, we've got 3 final points to spend, and we're going to put them in Deadly Venom. You deal 3% increased poison damage and debilitating toxins. Poison enemies deal less damage, and that completes our build. Now, again, like I've said, you can go with alchemical advantage, but here, I'll just take a point out of that. It's only 3% increased attack speed for each enemy you've poisoned up to 15%. I think if this increased that cap, right? This just makes it so that I can stack only 5 enemies to get that 15%. It's a lot faster. I think if that cap was increased per skill point, I'd like it a little bit more. And I already feel like I'm just ballsing fast as it is. So I didn't go with alchemical advantage, but it is definitely a route you can take if you feel like you want to really increase your attack speed and you want to have a different kind of pivot. These last 3 points are really flex points, and you can kind of put them wherever you see fit. I just like the fact that if I can put poison on a boss I'm attacking or a heavy hitting elite, then it's now doing 10% less damage. Every boss in the game is now doing 10% less damage to me, so I kind of like that a lot. So now we've done all this, let us talk about some notes as well as our aspects. So usually I start this section looking at our gears and skills, but here's the build notes here that I want to really focus on. So as always, swap your weapon every 5 levels to the best one. This is a true fact for all classes you play. When you're leveling up, just swap it out for the best one. You should never be putting a ton of stock into your weapon because you just want the one that does the most damage to push you through the levels as fast as you can. Use combo points for your specialization. Always build 3 combo points before penetrating shot to guarantee an 80% lucky hit chance and vulnerable primary target, which is always crucial. And then for your obols that you're going to be getting whenever you do public quests, whatever they're called, like the world quests, try to get trick shot and put it on your gloves. You're going to get trick shot probably as an aspect from something that you'll probably use obols for. Use obols on gloves. You want to use obols to pull gloves to hopefully get the trick shot aspect on those gloves. And then you're going to rip that aspect off and add it to an amulet, because amulets give a 50% bonus to whatever aspect is on them if they can house the aspect. So that's how you do that until you get up to Hawazar, which I believe is Act 4 or 5. There's Fractured Peace, Skullskin, Dry Steps, Azerbaijan, or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, it's Act 5, I think, is Hawazar. So Act 4 or 5. So you can get it automatically in that act. You can get it as a drop from one of the dungeons, but trick shot aspect is crucial for you because, like we said before, trick shot allows your penetrating shot to explode into other penetrating shots, which is damn awesome. Remember too that it uses your actual penetrating shot skill. It's not just some generic penetrating shot that goes out. It's a level 5 enhanced and whatever the hell the last one is, advanced penetrating shot that shoots out, which is lovely. For our other aspects, we're going aspect of the Expectant from Skull's Glen. Attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill by 5 to 10%, up to 30%. So we're going to be doing a lot of basic skill stuff, right? 1, 2, 3 basic skill for the combo points, then core skill. So we're going to get an increase on that damage. Then Edge Master's aspect here. Skills are going to deal damage that are increased based off of your primary resource. You're going to have a ton of energy, so you might as well do this. And energy always starts out capped, so it's nice to get as much damage as you can from Edge Masters. And then lastly, eluding aspect here is going to make it so that anytime you become injured, which I think again is like the last like 30-20% of your health bar, then you'll get unstoppable for 4 seconds, and this effect will last or has a 40 to 20 second cooldown. And you get this in fractured peaks. You get it at the very beginning of the game, so you might as well get it, slap it on some boots, and just kind of like hang tight because you're going to be moving so fast. This now makes you unstoppable, so you can get out of a tight pinch really quick. Use your caltrops to bounce out of that mofo, or use some Dark Shroud to kind of help mitigate a lot of the damage that you're going to be dealing with. For our gems, you're going to go Emeralds to increase crit strike damage to vulnerable enemies, since you've got vulnerable pretty much on demand here. And this is going to make it so that whenever we get precision, we're going to be doing 132% crit strike damage just base. Armor is max life, and then jewelry here is resistance to all elements until we really understand how armor shakes itself out. A skull might be better here, but because of the way armor works right now in the game, we know that armor, non-physical damage taken is partially reduced according to your armor contribution. It's not a 1-to-1 though, so it's on a sliding scale with diminishing returns. So we have to really test how that works before saying if skull is the absolute best choice in this scenario. So we'll have more details as we actually jump into the game. Here's your actual skill bar, and there is your combo point specialization. So this is the build for you, my bros. I absolutely love it. I'm completely torn. I'm recording this a handful of hours before jumping into the game here June 1st at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. So I'm really excited to either try the Archer build or my Bloody Golem build, which you can find linked in the upper right-hand corner. So go ahead and have some fun here. If you have any questions, any things that you want to do to change this, by all means, like I've been saying with all these builds, guys, don't follow everyone's build, guys. Like, it's so commonplace to do with ARPGs. I think that Blizzard's done a really good job with Diablo 4 of making the builds actually have a really good base ground. And I think it's kind of a symptom of playing an ARPG that we always want to play builds that are high in a tier list, but don't really kind of get sucked into the max rolls tier list of having the Bloodlance build as an F tier build. Who cares? If you enjoy the build, then that is an S tier build, and play the build that you enjoy the most and build out a build how you like it, because these builds are not that complex to make. I've got a video coming out that instructs you on how to make your own build, so you don't need to be a slave to some sort of evolving meta of build that's going to come out from forums and Reddits and content creators, myself included, of course, obviously, right? And websites. Like, really try to have as much fun as you can on your march up to max level. Once you reach max level, then you can maybe start working towards a meta build or what have you, but have fun, play the class however you want, because if you do that, you're going to learn all the skills and you're going to make a build that really, 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 really clicks with the way that you want to play the game. Because if you don't understand these abilities and you just click them because I tell you to, you're not going to understand why they're so badass and why they're so fun for you personally. So enjoy the game however you wish, my bros. As always, though, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.